The stream is live.
Yes, Titgallen is already here, and we were talking about overfishing for cod in Canada.
I still remember I read a book called Cod, The Fish That Changed the World. That's where I learned everything I know about cod.
Am I done with the coffee? I'm done with the coffee.
Oh, Tit Goblin must be a little disappointed that Wilson's not here yet.
Actually, I think no, I didn't. I think he didn't see yet. So I don't know.
He can be a few minutes late.
No, he did. He did see. Okay. Oh, he'll be here soon. So I've been reading. I've been reading some Tardi.
Grifu.
Grifu. No cut today. No cut today. I had a lot of pork. I ate like 1 pound of pork today. And Wilson is here.
There he is. Hello there.
Welcome. Long time no see.
Yeah, I got to see Wilson in person this weekend for the first time in a long time.
Quite a long time. Yeah.
And luckily, he even like in the whole place, he had the table next to me. So that was lucky. What were the odds of that?
Exactly. Usually, depending on the convention, you can request in Artist Alley who you could sit next to.
Okay.
That comes up every once in a while, but there was no such request for this particular one, so it just happened. It just happened to work out quite well.
Yeah.
And I think it was a good amount of luck, mainly because on Thursday I got the number to my table. But by Saturday, it was a completely different number. And when you look at the map that they give us, the entrance is like on the other side of the map. So it looks like the map they used and then the numbering system might have been flipped.
Well, I remember when I looked at the map, it looked like there was a table in between yours and Pratt's. But it turned out there wasn't.
Yes, it was that. And then I think it was because Pratt had 2 tables.
Right.
So I think they originally counted the middle table as something else. Then they realized, because when Pratt came in, whoever set up, she was like, "Are these both yours?" I was like, "No, as far as I know, I only got this one. I'm guessing that was yours." And because it's like, I didn't bring enough stuff for 2 tables. And she was like, "Oh, don't worry, I did." So I guess the other table got turned.
Oh, yeah, that was supposed to be like no, it was funny. The week before I went in, and Laura, who wasn't there but was running the thing. Hello there, Comic Craft.
Hey, Terrence.
Hello, welcome.
Was like, come see our setup, and she took me to another room in the building where they had a mock-up. They had their own 2 tables there with how they were going to set everything up, and it was set up just like ours was a corner,
right?
So they knew it was going to be a corner beforehand, and they had it set. Everything. I was like, "Ooh, you're doing a run through." I'm doing a run through for the table.
We've
First
done
time
that before.
we've done that.
Yeah, I've done that before, and no matter how many times you decide, okay, it's going to look like this, you get to the show and decide, yeah, we'll do it this way instead. I've done that a few times.
And also, in front of me was the rack with a bunch of prints on it.
Right.
And like halfway through the day, Tomas, who was running the booth, was like, maybe we should put some prints on the back of the rack too, because we were on that corner. So people were always walking by us to our side so they could see the back of the rack. And it's like, well, why aren't we using that space now? So
Right.
he hung up a bunch of prints on the back of the rack that
And
people could
those
then see.
and those were not a nice set of racks
Yeah.
as well, because the ones that I have that we stopped using, it's a long one. And it takes
Ah,
up a little too much table space. But when it's thinner and higher, I think that works better. And again, it's one of those things that you do enough shows, you start to tweak it, you
yeah.
start to change it around. One of the best displays and professional to setting up their table is Buzz, the
Uh-huh.
artist named Buzz. He has perfected it over the years that I've watched him go to other people's table and says, "You have this all wrong," and he'll rearrange the other person's table, and that person starts getting sales. And
That's
it's like,
good.
I cannot believe that you did that, but it works, so you can't complain. He does a fantastic job doing it.
Yeah.
And again, with the map, there was supposed to be a table behind us. So the
Ah.
table that Chris Batista was sitting on was originally behind us. And at some point it got pushed because he came in late. So it got
Yeah.
pushed next to Amy. And so it was just that and there wasn't supposed to be a middle column where people can just walk through.
Ah.
That was supposed to be blocked off, but it was enough traffic. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
actually worked quite well.
You know, it was funny. Sunday, Rin, who was the other professor tabling with me, um, she had the shift after me, and she was, we overlapped, but she was like, "Your friend Wilson left like half an hour after you. There was like still like 4 hours to go." I'm like, he figured he sold all he was selling that Sunday.
Yeah, I think we left at 3. There was like 2 hours left. But it's like, again, Eric's my ride, and he's like, "Oh, we should start going." I'm gonna go. I personally like to stay at the con until the very end because I've
Nah.
I've sold like books at the very end of a con. Like someone's
Okay.
walking out and they'll come in and they'll buy every one of the books. They were
Okay.
just planning not to do that to the end of the day. But you can't really count on that.
Yeah.
So it's like, I do that show not necessarily to make money. That show is just to give back to the school,
Yeah.
and that's the first show of the season usually for me. So
Right.
then I could go, all right, we could do a proper inventory because both Eric and I are there together and we see
Hmm.
everything and say, okay, so we need these books or what have you. We did do an order of books a month ago before the show. And it's
Ah.
like, all right, maybe we should try the center racks. And I would like to get a tablecloth with the logo on it. Stuff like that, just tweaking things a little here and there. Not necessarily will boost up sales. It's more for our own ego. That looks a little nicer with
Yeah.
the logo on it.
Makes you
So
feel better.
it makes me feel better. So I feel like I'm doing something. It makes me feel legit, for lack of a better term. Like we're a real business that
And good
occasionally
evening,
shows.
62 Lefty Blues.
Hello,
Mm.
welcome. And so for me, it's like I enjoy that for being like an easy show
Yeah.
because I know what to expect. It is getting a little more popular, and I could
Yeah, there
say
was a
it's
lot of,
because
especially Saturday, it was packed.
yeah, there was a lot of people came in on Saturday. Sunday they came in right after the lunch hour.
Yeah.
Usually they'll show up because they in the morning they went to church, they're spending time with
Right.
the family. Then they go out in the afternoon. And it was a nice day. So it's like, oh, do we go to the show or do we stay in? Stuff like that is a factor as well.
Yeah.
But
Saturday was raining.
yeah, Saturday was raining,
Still a
and
lot
we
of people showed
we
up.
had we had like 3 or 4 books sell on a Saturday, which
Hmm.
hasn't happened before. So
Right.
that tells me there's a lot more people showing up. And it was like that Saturday, that whole day was pretty crowded. So it was pretty good.
It was funny. I was there to do, portfolio reviews as part of mine. And there's a sign there that says portfolio reviews.
Right.
And usually when I do them, it's like I've done them at Mocha too. A lot of times they just want to talk about their art. Because these are, young people. Some of them are trying to go to college. Some of them are in college. Some of them whatever, but they just really want to talk about their art with someone, which is fine with me. But on Sunday, I think it was, I was doing portfolio reviews with like 3 kids who were trying to get into the high school. I was like, oh, these are my youngest portfolio review because they were like, 7th and 8th grade. I was
Right.
like, oh, okay, let's look at this. I think all 3 of them could have gotten in. They were pretty good. If you're in 8th grade or 7th grade and you have a portfolio,
It's a lot better than most people.
you're ahead of me. I certainly did not have a
So
portfolio in the 7th grade.
one of the classes that I went to was not necessarily a portfolio review, which that's what I thought it was, but it
Yeah.
was more of like how to create a portfolio for
Ah,
college.
okay.
And she had a nice presentation, bullet points, but there was also about 6 alumni from all different years, going as far back as the 60s, all
Mhm.
kind of like doing a little talk and whatnot. And what's funny is like, so I'm sitting next to Chris Batista, and we started our careers at the same time. So
Did he go there?
I think I'm not sure. He seemed to have kind of said he may have, but he wasn't in any. He would have been in the same year I was in. And I
Ah,
know some people that was before me and after me, but Chris wasn't there. So I
okay.
think he was in one of the other art schools in New York.
Okay.
So he might have gone to either Fashion or LaGuardia. So he
Mhm.
might have, but he's in the school. They're all talking about artwork. So he might have just said, when I went to school, I
No.
might have thought, did he mean here or did he
No.
mean? So I don't know if he went there. I'm not positive. Um, but we were just talking about, this the whole thing about the portfolio and what to do and what not to do. And I sat there, it's like I broke that rule, I broke that rule, and I broke that rule, but everything ends up working out fine. So and then we were just talking about how various schools did portfolio reviews. And like I thought it was odd, School of Visual Arts, when I went there to give my portfolio in. There was no talking to anyone. You
Yeah.
physically dropped off the portfolio and then came back 2 hours later to pick it up. And there was no interaction with anybody.
I
So you waited however long was to get either an acceptance letter or a rejection letter. And that was it. There was just no talking to anybody
I
on it.
went to a regular high school. I didn't even know what a portfolio was.
Right.
I ended up going to a state school that didn't need a portfolio to get in, so I was okay. Then I needed a portfolio to get into SUNY Purchase after my 2 years at SUNY Sullivan. But by then I had one, and knew
Right.
what one was.
And when I left art and design, I had a portfolio of some
Right.
stuff, but I didn't get into SVA. And then
Mhm.
I ended up going to Mercy College and their arts program, but I didn't need a portfolio. So I
Right.
kind of hanged on to the high school portfolio and I never really updated it. And then when I went to Marvel, there wasn't a request for a portfolio.
Mhm.
But my art director, Heidi Balaban, was like, "Oh, I want to see your portfolio." I'm like, well, I don't have one, and I kept stalling it, and I never showed her one. I ended up like just doing work, and it's like, "Oh well, here, this is technically the portfolio now because it would have been updated with the Marvel stuff."
Ted Goblin had a great high school art class with a full mixed media curriculum. So not just doing collages. But super jealous when I hear about people going to art high schools.
Yeah. I had a really good art teacher too in high school, but it wasn't an art high school.
Your your high school days were they like Fame? Did you have people dancing in the halls?
Fame
We
was about the high school of art and
uh,
design,
Yeah,
no, Fame was another
wasn't it?
school. No, it wasn't a.
no,
So you had 3 major high schools back then. So you had, I think that one was about LaGuardia for the high
Okay.
school for Fame. So we were art and design, and then there was another one called fashion. fashion illustrator. It was a fashion school. I actually got accepted to that. Um, but my counselor didn't bother to contact me. I had broken my leg, and so I actually took the test for fashion with a broken leg.
Mm-hmm.
You go in there with somewhat a portfolio, and then you take a test. Same thing with art and design. There's a test to take. Bring in a portfolio, test to take, and I don't recall if there was a paper to write it also. So all that gets done, and then went home. Eventually got the cast off, went to school. But whatever acceptance letter I got, the counselor of the junior high school was like, they didn't bother to call. So I had no idea. I'm thinking I'm going to be going to one of these schools, only to find out, oh no, your counselor sent your records and all information to your local high school. So my local high school has no record of me being there. So we end up finding what high school it was sent to. It was sent to a high school that is like at that time it still is, but at that time was known as the worst high school in the Bronx.
Ah.
And so we get there and it's like, yes, they have you set up for special ed. It's like,
No.
no, I think I may be an artist, but there's nothing else wrong with me as far as I know. So the whole mixed up, and I end up having to take the test again to get out of that high school to go to art and design. Because the art and design end up being the one that accepted me. So I end up starting my high school instead of the what is it, ninth grade year is the
Uh-huh.
freshman year. I ended up starting at 10th grade year. So I only went to art and design for 10 years. Now, the other school, it was Evander Charles High School in the Bronx. The only cool thing about that was it did have an art class, and the
Mm-hmm.
art teacher was very excited that I am going to, transfer out and go to art and design.
Ah.
So he even gave me a bunch of supplies and stuff like that. But again, um, it was a very good art program in that school because that was
Mm-hmm.
my favorite at the time. Everything else I kind of like whatever. And the gym class had a pool. So I
Ah.
enjoyed the heck out of it. And they even offered me if I wanted to be on the swim team. Back then I was a lot thinner and better in the water. But it was like, nope, I'm going to art and design. I'm out of here.
Did you learn regular math and chemistry? And
Well,
well,
yeah,
probably.
you get everything on that because I broke my leg, and this is really my excuse, but because I broke my leg, I miss calculus, so I never learned that, and that kind of stunted math for me because I was really good at math up to the point where it's like, oh, because I enjoyed it, but it was like that one part I didn't learn, and then I just never got back into it, and but we still had English class, math class, calculus and all that other stuff
Yeah,
that
in,
eventually
in
came
in
in.
New York State, you have to take at least they did at the time, had to take these thing called the Regents tests.
Yes,
So you had I don't even remember, you had to have academics to pass these Regents tests, or you weren't going to graduate.
exactly. So, and a lot of books I read at Art and Design, I mean, The Great Gatsby was from there, was
Hmm.
reading it there. I eventually thought I would get Lord of the Rings because everyone else did at some point or another. So I never bothered to read Lord of the Rings as a kid because I thought it was going to be eventually given to
It
us.
was the Lord of the Flies that everyone got, not the Lord of the Rings.
Read the Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, there was
Read
no
it
Lord of
there.
the Rings in high school in the 80s.
I Somebody was reading it and they made it seem like they got to read it for class.
I read it in
Uh
high school, but not
the
for high
Scarlet
school.
Letter, all that
Yeah.
stuff was there.
Good evening,
So
Missing Mars.
good evening. So yeah, regular classes type stuff, history class, economics class, all that type of stuff was there. And it was just that we also had art classes within it as well. And my major was computer graphics and graphic designs. So I wanted to get
Mhm.
into advertising. It was advertising and graphic design. Graphic design did have early computer classes. Like I worked on whatever device had a Wacom tablet, but the pen was attached to it. So the
Yeah.
tablet was like this big, and then the workspace was a tiny little spot. And then was whatever pre um, Photoshop program it was, because I didn't touch any of the Photoshop stuff until
Mac
college.
Paint.
It probably was.
That was the first
I
one I
couldn't
remember.
recall. And so we had gotten those classes um, with a little bit, and we had a gym class as well for art and design. So it had everything else, a normal school would, but it just had extra art classes.
And I also got to see at the show someone we worked at Marvel with who's still there.
Yep.
Tim Smith. I think he said he came back in 2008 and he's been there ever since. I think he told me his title. I don't even remember what it was. Last thing I remember hearing was he was in charge of like their digital production for their digital books. He has something to do with production and digital stuff. But and he also said that the firings were worse than we knew.
Right.
Because if you remember a week or two ago, they had like 4 editors who were fired. But every single department had to fire people. Tim even had to fire one guy in his department of like 6 people.
Right.
So he said it's really, he wasn't even sure who was still working there. So I was like, whoa. So the firings at Marvel were really bad those last week or the week before. I was like, whoa, I didn't realize that many people got fired.
It was across Disney, and it made it seem like, across Disney, only 1,000 people was let go, and it's like, no, a whole lot more people, from what I'm hearing, because the the new CEO came in, and that's the first thing they do.
Yeah,
is if they don't fire people because of merit, they just he's showing up, and they're changing the numbers.
Right.
I was listening.
Get a bump in the stock price by firing people.
And I was listening to something today where they were talking about how many of the, from the Marvel films, pretty much the whole art department.
Right, the whole FX department, digital FX got fired.
So that looks like they may be, and they've been playing around with AI anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're getting into it a little more, but they're not letting people know that's what they're doing.
Yep.
From what I understand.
Though
I got no way to confirm it.
Tim must have gone back into the office. And I think I asked you a few weeks ago if you had heard anything about Jeff Sutter, who was somebody who worked there when Wilson and I were there, but I haven't. He's not on any social media that I know of. And I'm like, whatever happened to him? He sent me a LinkedIn request. I was like, oh, so Tim must have gone in and said he saw me or something. That's
okay.
Got me in Jeff Sutter's mind. So he sent me a LinkedIn request that I accepted. I was like, oh, I'm going to send him a message now because he's still at Marvel too. Apparently from his LinkedIn.
Right. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Your life after Marvel was kind of, it's nice when people who experience mix up tell others it's okay after the fact.
Yeah, it's just like every time they've done a mass layoff, which they've done it quite a few times, and I was laid off twice, so I understand what it's like to be on that chopping block, and I'd like to let people know that for me, Marvel was like the first job out of college, and I used to joke around with Dave Sharp that we're lifers. We want to be there. We're having fun there. I can see not going anywhere else. But this is before corporate decided, we're going to destroy everybody. But it was like one of those things. Like, you survive, you move on to other jobs and do other things. And at one point when one of the Marvel reunions we were talking about, like there are more people that used to work for Marvel than ever actually does currently work for Marvel at that time. So, and a lot of these people I kept in touch with, and they moved on to greater and better things. So,
It's
you know.
funny. I can remember a couple of years ago talking to Thomas Velasquez, who worked in the bullpen with us, and he said something. I forget who he mentioned who was still at Marvel. He's like, guess he's one of the guys who won. He's still at Marvel, and I'm like, you want to still be at Marvel? You think that's winning? I was like, okay.
Again, like for some people, that was the dream job,
Yeah.
and they would have stayed. I
Right.
would have
You're
kept.
right.
Yes, by the time I left, I was miserable, but it wasn't necessarily the people,
Right.
and it wasn't necessarily the job. It was just that once I moved over from art returns to archives and stuff like that, there was no growth. There wasn't going to be any
Right.
growth, and they was at the point where it's like, I was getting a little angsty.
There's very few jobs at Marvel with growth.
Very much so. And I was trying to get out to go into editorial. And the
Mhm.
few times I did interview and stuff like that, there is the problem of being too good at your job and
Mhm.
being told, "Oh, we rather you stay what you're doing what you're doing
Right.
because you're
Right.
doing a good job at it." But again, me not thinking is like, yeah, I'm also doing the job of four other
Right.
people. So it was like having to deal with the breaking point for me, which I probably would have quit, is when they had me. Um, so I ran not only the library. At some point, I also was doing the bundles, meaning I was
Right.
handing out the
Comp
comics to
copy.
everybody, the comp copies. Because I ran uh, the library always got 5 copies of every book to get, to be put into the library to eventually be bundled. I also inherited extra copies that Mary McFarlane had in the in the area where my office was. He had all these
Mhm.
flat files going around. I am not too sure why she kept a set of every books, but she did. I think it was for editorial to get the books quickly because they weren't bound yet or put in a library. I'm not too
He
sure
was
why.
Tom DeFalco's executive secretary, right?
Yes.
All right.
So we had extra copies of every book. So those kind of when we moved again, hey Wilson, can you hold these keys? If anyone needs them, open up the locks for them. They were never locked because no one's stealing comic books because everyone got them for free.
Right.
So all those cabinets were just full of comic books. And at some point upstairs, Guy Cario got into his gorge that I need to know how many of these books we have here. And it was like, oh, I need a number and I need it by this time. And it's like, okay. And I went to
Where are
Dan.
you going to get that number from?
Yeah. So I got to count and we got like 5 different interns to help, and we're counting these comic books. And I told Dan that, this is not. I didn't tell him that this isn't my job because it technically was, but it didn't dawn on me. No, that wasn't what I was hired for.
No.
And I told Dan, that these books, there's a lot of these books. Why does he need a count? I never got a reason why, and I think that what irked me more. You tell me
Mhm.
why, then I can go, oh, well, I can do this, I can do that. So he was supposed to create a spreadsheet for me to follow. So, and he took about a week to get that. So that ate up time. And so when I talked to him about it, it's like, we got a whole lot of books. And his reaction was, well, I didn't say it was going to be easy. And it's like, all right, so it's count these books. And then, every month more books come in. So he wanted a count updated every time. So every week or something, I had to give him an updated account. I don't recall if it was a week or every month. And so, because we got books every day. Sorry, not every day. Every week, we got a new set of books. And now that everything is counted, it's easy to go, okay, we got 5 more of these books, whatever. And every week I have to send an email to Dan, an email to Guy, and I think somebody else with these books. And I'm mailing it in. I'm mailing it in every week. That it's Friday, it's 4 o'clock. I got to stop everything I'm doing to update this. And so again, just sending it and sending it. It was just making me more miserable. And I feel that was one of the indications, like they wanted me to quit to get out of there. They were doing stupid things at this point. And so at some point, it's like I sent the email, but I realized I didn't update that email. Okay. And the email went out and nothing. No reaction.
No one even noticed.
No one noticed. And then I had asked Dan, who's reading these emails? Who's getting these updates?
Pointless busy work.
Exactly. And it's like I have to stop my actual work to do this nonsense. And he said, "Oh, don't worry, someone's reading it." And that felt like top men are that are going to deal with this. Top men.
Top men are on the case.
So I just stopped sending emails.
Yeah.
And not a thing happened. And it's like, so busy work was created for someone who was already busy. And I had to stop because, again, even though I moved away from art returns, I was still overseeing art returns, getting all the books bounded, dealing with all the CDs that would come in, and the CDs would go to me.
Mm-hmm.
Then because every now and then we needed an old book, and it would be on the CD. And it's like, all right, which CD do you need? Okay, we need this. And I would find it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the CD, blah, blah, blah. But they wanted to make everything upgraded to whatever IT was doing upstairs. So what would happen is someone would need a book. They would come to me. Then I put the request in to get it from IT. IT sends me the information. Then I send it to the editor. So we're adding an extra person into the mix.
Yeah.
So they could follow whatever was going on. When it was so much easier for me to just to go to the CD rack and pull it out and give it to you. And then you guys dealt with it, or the editor or whoever. And then at some point, say, no, we got to do it this way. Throw out those CDs. And it's like, okay, no problem. And I didn't touch the CDs. I just left them there because it was like, I'm not going to throw out something that can be used, because every time, every week, they could not find it upstairs in IT. And it would exist in the CD thing because, again, they're like, oh, we got to get rid of those. They're not in your way. This is my office. I have a space for them. And it was just all those little things that, again, miserable. Maybe I would have quit in a year if I stayed there, but I don't know. So I'm more upset that I didn't leave on my own terms, but it was like they said, time for me to go. I went, but it was like crazy. But if I did not get fired, I would have stayed.
Yeah.
I would have stayed until either I would have talked to DC to go into their bullpen, and it didn't happen. Plus, DC moved to California right after that, so I wouldn't have been asked to leave anyway. I mean, asked to move, with DC anyhow. So it worked out that right after Marvel, I was working for DC. I just was doing a freelance basis, lettering for CMX. So I was working for the California offices. Technically, I was working for the California offices before I got fired. Because I was lettering manga on a freelance basis, and Marvel did not do manga, so there's no real conflict of interest. So that's how I stuck it in my head.
Eric P says, from a purely comics point of view, it feels like DC is just killing it and Marvel is struggling. That isn't to say that Marvel is without good books. It just seems like they're few and far between.
Well, everybody's loving those absolute books.
Yeah,
they're dominating the sales charts. So
something a little different.
The funniest thing,
Yeah, the problem with Marvel is the usual for the last few years. They put out 100 books and they don't pay attention to any of them.
It ebbs and flows. It goes up and
Yeah.
down. Both Marvel and DC do not mind being either number 1 or number 2.
And let's fit without the absolute line. What's DC doing?
Right.
Mm.
You know, you don't hear about anything else from
No,
DC
and they even
other
launched
than
the whole new Batman series, and no one cares.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the funny thing I found out this week at my LCS. Chris, who used to run the shop there, was in talking. He's like, do you know what they call Absolute Batman online? I'm like, no. He's like, Big Dumb Batman. That's how they refer to Absolute Batman. Some people, Big Dumb Batman. I'm like, that is funny. Big Dumb Batman book.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to like, again, it ebbs and flows. They'll keep doing it. Eventually, someone will get an idea like, oh, this would be fun to do. You know, yeah. You know, I'm not sure if they're doing anything innovative at the moment. I don't think there's a call for it from them. You know, so
I just think DC stumbled onto the Absolute line, and it's a success, and that's, you know, rising tide is lifting all boats, so that's good.
Yeah, exactly. I get more excited for like projects like Dork and Instances. I'm not reading it, but that's the fact that people are excited about it.
Yeah.
And then that, I think, you know, once someone's excited about stuff, more people get excited about stuff.
Here's a discussion topic I have for this week. I was talking with my fellow teachers, one of my fellow teachers, and she's not a comic book fan. But we're talking, she knows some comic book stuff, but it's about sort of the bookseller comic books. Because we were talking about, you know, comic book people who work for book publishers. And we were discussing it, and she's like, oh, you like those more commercial comics? I'm like, no, I'm an indie comic guy. She's like, these are indie comics. I'm like, if you're working for a big book publisher, that's not indie comics. But then I was thinking about it, I'm like, what are they? What?
They're mainstream comics. Anything that's reserved for the direct market is indie.
But they're not selling a lot either.
Well, yeah, but that's usual. Even in even a situation in France where you can buy comics everywhere.
Right.
If there's a new Asterix, it sells 10 million copies.
Right.
The second best-selling book of the year, and these are albums, so they come out once, whenever. The second best-selling book of the year sells 600,000. The third one sells 250.
Right.
So from the 4th to the 20th, they sell 100. From the 21st to the 50th, they sell between less than 100, but more than 50. And going down to the top 100, they sell more than 20, but less than 50. So,
but not the top sellers. I'm like,
right.
Here in the U.S., like there's like every book. There's only like 3 book publishers actually, I think, left in the U.S. But they all have like sub publishers. Like
sure.
You'll see some publisher name in there, really, you know, a section of one of the big 3 publishers, because there's only 3 publishers, and they all sort of have their comic book section. And it's their young adult comics that sell well. I'm not even counting those really. I'm counting like I don't even know what they are. I mean, because we don't read them. And I don't think they have, if the sales of these books were 10,000, that would be a lot. But I'm like, are those, I mean, to me, if you're being published by a book publisher, you're not an indie comics person.
Right.
But those people are still kind of, they're not making a lot of money.
Right.
A matter of fact, I saw once, I forget who it was, break down, and she was like one of these book publisher cartoonists. And she would get an advance, but like, I forget what the advance was. It wasn't a fortune, but it was a lot of money. Let's just say like the advance was $30,000, which is a lot of money to get at once. But now she has to deliver a graphic novel in 6 months. So that $30,000 is for 6 months' work, which is not a lot. And she broke down and she's like, I'm still eating ramen for lunch because that's what I can afford. So like, would that person be like an indie comic? I don't know.
No.
I don't think so. You're right. Then I don't think they would be, but they're also not making a fortune.
Look, you
because
know
an
that
indie comic person doesn't make any money. They don't see a check for $30,000.
Here's the thing. I sort of did the math a few years ago when it about comics sold in France, and if you put out a comic, there's a writer and an artist, and the artist has to pay the assistant and the colorist and maybe the letterer. If they sell 30,000 copies of a $20 graphic novel, neither the writer nor the artist are making have enough money to pay for their regular living expenses that year. So if you sell 30,000, you're in the top 100. And there are 5,000 graphic novels published in France a year. So if you're in the top 100, you're not getting rich. Only the guys who do the Asterix book.
Would you consider them indie comics?
Well, in France,
no,
they're not. No, they're not. They're not. They're being published by one of the big three, which is kind of funny because the big three comic publishers in France are all owned by the same media corporation.
Right.
They're competing against each other, but they're all owned by the same guy.
So you can be a cartoonist and you're broke, but you're just not an indie. You can be mainstream and broke. Which I guess would be the same here. Those people who they're mainstream and broke, but even at least they're more mainstream than an indie comics guy.
Sure.
Because, like you said, if you're only sold in Kickstarter or comic shops, that's indie. But if you're sold in bookstores or Amazon, even.
Yeah, but it's the same. It's like in music. If you sell 100,000 copies of your CD, but you're put out by Sony, you don't make any money. If you're an indie punk band and you press your own vinyls and sell 10,000 of those, the money's for you.
Yeah.
It's not the same economics. Right. You probably make a better percentage of sales out of being an indie guy than of being a mainstream guy.
Like that woman who just won the Pulitzer. You're not winning the Pulitzer if your stuff is in a comic shop. And this was her first and last comic. She said she's never making another one.
It's not easy.
Sure, the economics aren't there.
Yeah, so
if you went into comics, think you can make money out of one, you're not.
It's kind of like crazy to think about that and think like, is she an indie? I mean, I don't even know what to call her. I mean, when you win a Pulitzer, you're not an indie comic.
No.
But by the same notion, she won a Pulitzer and it does her no good.
Fred Tech is here and is asking if you picked up the next hot comic.
The next hot comic this past week, possibly. I noticed somebody later on mentioned Murder Hobo. I got that one.
Yeah. Fred Tech is talking about Murder Hobo. Yeah.
Right. I got Murder Hobo #1, and it was fun.
Mhm.
It's Midnight Factory, so it's Joseph Schmalke's. That's Joseph Schmalke's publishing company, but I buy his stuff usually, but he usually writes and draws. This one he's just writing, and Ryan G. Brown is drawing, whose name I know, but I don't know what else he's done. He's got this sort of let's call it a Scotty Young style, even though his style is not really Scotty Young. And it was a fun story. It opened with this. There's the fake murder hobo, and they introduced the whole. Pardon me, it's plural. Murder hobos. They introduced the whole murder hobos team, but then you find out it's a stage play, and it's a commercial for the actual murder hobos, who are much less pretty. So then, they're for hire, and then it's about them going on a job that they were hired for, and it was pretty. I'm going to get some more of it. I liked it. I don't even remember what the job they went on was now, but it was a fun book. I'll try the second issue. And you know what's funny? I love these covers. It's got cardstock cover that has a nice feel to it. $5 comic. But I also got this week Swamp Thing 88.
Oh, that came out this week? Okay.
That came out this week. Did you make it to the shop this week?
Unfortunately, I did not. But
Okay,
that was going to be one of the books I was planning to pick up.
But I think it's actually called... The actual name of the series is Swamp Thing 89. And there's going to be 4 issues of it. This is actually Swamp Thing 88 that never got printed.
Right.
Where the Swamp Thing meets... So I guess all 4 issues are the end of the story. I don't know if Michael Zulli drew all the 4 issues because he died a couple of years ago.
Right. I think they had these in the draw.
I know this one
decided to cancel it. Yeah.
Yeah, this one's clearly in the drawer.
Yeah, I don't know when they would have killed this story. And the rumor is it was all done. All they had to do is print it, and then they got scared and decided not to do it.
But I bring up the price because this one was also $4.99. But with DC Comics, you have a choice of spending an extra $1 to get the cardstock cover. And as much as I love cardstock covers, I'm like, I'm not paying $6 for this just to have a cardstock cover. I'm like, I would much rather have the hardstock cover. But when you give me a choice to pay an extra $1 for it, I'm just like, especially for a DC comic, I'm just like, no.
Yeah. So, Captain Infinity is here.
All right. Hello there.
And so is Donald Rex.
So he likes watching what we're talking about.
But no one, you know what? I know this was controversial for the him meeting Jesus at the end. But what was more controversial to me personally in this is the Mary Magdalene misogyny. Because I know a lot about the history of religion. I like the history of religions. And one of the misogynistic things the Catholic Church did many, many years ago, I mean, hundreds of years ago, was there's 2 gospel stories. One is about Mary Magdalene, who was Jesus's favorite. And she, and she she was an important person in the early church, an important figure, I should say. No one knows if she really existed or not, but when Christianity was around, in the Gospels, she was an important person. There's even like a Gospel of Mary Magdalene out there somewhere.
Right.
Also, in another Gospel story, there's a story about a prostitute named Mary. And some church father 1,000 years ago decided he wanted to, and probably not even one, it was a bunch, wanted to sort of, it was misogynistic. They didn't like the importance of Mary Magdalene. So they said Mary Magdalene is the prostitute. And that sort of diminished Mary Magdalene's standing in the Catholic Church, which was what they were trying to do. And we know now that there's no link between Mary Magdalene and Mary the prostitute. They're two different stories, two different Marys. So it's generally considered misogynistic now to depict Mary Magdalene as a prostitute. In this, they depict Mary Magdalene as a prostitute. Not only as a prostitute, as a naked prostitute, sleeping with some Roman guy. So it was just like this part just made me go, ah.
Yeah, they're going for that story again.
Yeah, that I'm like, not this old misogynistic story. But I'm sure that Rick Veitch didn't know it at the time.
Right.
I'm sure it wasn't on purpose. That was the tradition. But the tradition was misogynistic 100%. The guy who originally came up with conflating the two did it specifically to devalue Mary Magdalene. Jesus's faith, which is why now when you see stuff like the Da Vinci Code with Jesus having a child, it's with Mary Magdalene, who was his favorite disciple. It says in one of the Gospels somewhere.
Right.
Regarding the discussion of money, Captain Affinity says it's certainly not easy. No.
I don't
I
know.
was trying to get the book. It's easy if a book gets published and you're a sellout and a poser. Indie comics need to be and drawn on cardboard. Yeah. If you're successful, you're a sellout. No. Everybody wants to
there
sell
we
out.
go. When a person wants to do comics, you're a cartoonist.
Well, yeah, you're always a cartoonist. Terrence bought 2 copies of Swamp Thing.
Yeah, Veitch cover as well as the Zuli cover.
Mm-hmm.
Nice
Easy
stuff.
sung by the Commodores. Yeah. But being a cartoonist is not easy.
Not at all.
Yeah, but just talking to her, I was like, I was just like so defensive when somebody's like, "Well, you don't get indie comics, you get those commercial comics." I'm like, I've been buying indie comics since totally since 1983.
For myself, I sometimes find it hard to say an Image book is an indie comic.
Yeah.
Because they're the third, I believe they're still the third largest comic book company. And yes, when they first began, were they indie? No, they weren't struggling. They all were millionaires going in.
But they don't have any editorial sort of structure to guide you along, and you can get in debt to them.
Yeah. But again, I don't think that's indie.
If you own your own material.
Yeah. If you own your own material, it's indie.
You're indie.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why when people say, "Oh, the best indie comic right now is Transformers." Transformers is not an indie comic. It's a property owned by Hasbro, the biggest toy maker on the planet.
Yeah.
Definitely not an indie comic.
No, not at all. Yeah, so it's like Image rides that blade of they have indie comics with them, but it's Image itself indie comics. They're mainstream comics.
Well, here it is. I think Image comics can be indie comics or cannot. if Todd McFarlane is hiring somebody to do Spawn, those people are not doing an indie comic.
Right.
But Eric Larson doing Savage Dragon is doing an indie comic. So it could be one or the other. At Image, it's not. I mean, it could be one or the other. Like you said, if Transformers is not an indie comic, it's a licensed comic. Dork is an indie comic.
Exactly.
So.
Captain Finney says, used to get into arguments for pointing out Jesus Christ wasn't born on Christmas Day.
Well, until 2012 when the Pope confirmed it.
I think everybody, I think most people agreed that it was not possible.
Most scholars agree. Most people don't agree.
Right. There's
people don't even think of it.
Yeah, if Jesus wasn't born on Christmas Day, why is it a holiday?
Because it was decided. We don't have a day. Let's pick one. All right, here. This is the day we pick.
By coincidence, it's one of the biggest pagan festival dates. By coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
People already celebrating on this day.
Yeah, but do you know why the Virgin Mary is so popular in Portugal and Spain? It's because the the sacred feminine was very much the most important figure in Celtic pagan mythology in the Iberian Peninsula before the Romans got here, and so in order to absorb those people into the early church, the Virgin Mary had to become an important figure in the biblical context.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Trinity has a few indie comics. Howard Chicken covers. Yeah.
We named the dog Indiana. I love that line.
Yeah, but how anything that Howard Chicken does nowadays is indie. that
is true.
Yeah. People still say Christmas is a fairy tale. Crazy talk. Everyone knows his birthday.
Yeah, that got me thinking. What is an indie comic? I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
I'm still not 100%. But if you don't own it, it's not an indie comic. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's true too. I think it really comes down to there's various levels of it as well.
If it's work for hire, it's for sure not indie.
It comes down to who owns that particular property, and who's doing the work.
Yeah. When Eastman and Laird sold the Turtles, that stopped being an indie property.
Yeah,
so
it ceased being an indie comic.
Yeah,
became an IP comic.
An IP for a corporation.
I
did pick up some comics over the weekend at the show.
So I didn't pick up anything at the show.
It was
except for the comic you gave me. Then
it was there was only a handful of people selling comics.
Yeah.
The Bilbo Publishings, who's also a distributor, was selling his own book, but I didn't have time to pick up any there. I usually go walk around to try to see if any kids are selling their own comics. Once in a while it happens, but I didn't see anybody really there. I did pick up, and I don't even know how to pronounce these, but Henry Q Comics is the name of the company. Is what I picked up. I didn't get to read any, but he had a few books on hand. So this issue. So here's issue 1. And I'm not even sure how to pronounce that. Fuerza?
Fuerza.
Okay, which I think means strong in Spanish.
Strength.
Okay, and Ralph
Fuerza.
Writer, letter, editor, pencil, inks, cover. So it looks like there's a group of people that works on this. I believe Ralph, who's the one that was who sold it. I don't even know how to pronounce that name. If you guys can even see it.
Henriquez.
Enriquez?
Of Enriquez and Fakrul Reza Rivai. So yeah, that guy's Iranian.
Okay.
Ah.
So I believe he went to the school, and so he has some books. So I picked it up. So it's what issue number 1 and issue number 2. We have a female superhero. Let's open up some pages. Looks like the second issue is a different art team. So let's do the first issue first. Find the box is pretty big, but easy to read.
Mm-hmm.
The text balloon is also big. I would say it's definitely indie.
Mm-hmm. Even amateur.
Yeah, not too bad.
No.
But it's like,
Not too bad at all.
you know, it's not too bad. I've seen worse. It's not too bad for an independent book. And even the lettering
always
could be
gives it away
used
as
somewhere.
amateur. That's the part
Yeah.
that's amateur in indie books. Always the lettering,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
even digital.
And then here's the second issue. I believe it's a different artist.
A Star is Born.
But I haven't read the story yet, but I'll look for that. So that was the first 2 books. And then the next set of books is called Rage in the Shadow.
Reach. Tough lesson. Got to work on those bursts.
Yeah. The those are Blandbots pre-made balloons. They look like the Blandbots pre-made balloons.
Yeah.
And the person is breaking quite a few rules for lettering.
And another thing you notice when it's indie, those guys still haven't figured out how to do computer coloring.
Yeah.
The shading is always all wrong.
This may very well be somebody's first book.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They're trying.
You could
Yeah.
tell certain
But
things on there.
But it's usually, even back in the 90s, you noticed it was the coloring that,
Oh, yeah.
that they were trying to figure out.
When everybody was learning computer coloring, you could certainly tell.
I did so many lens flares. So many lens flares as well as textures. I went crazy with the textures. And here's the second issue of the same title.
Rage in the Shadows. Rage
Smash.
Road to Danger.
Those beep beep honk honks underneath the credits just struck me as funny. I'm like, what's beeping and what's honking way down there? Just flip back a page and take a look at that.
Oh, it was
the credits page.
They were all beep beeps. So her phone.
Oh, it's her phone beep
there,
beeping.
So
okay. I thought there were some cars beep beeping.
No. All right. So when you are lettering books, my friends, this tail should not touch the person's head. It should be a little higher. And the thickness here where it meets the balloon should not be any bigger than one letter. So usually you pick a letter like a O. If it's bigger than the O, make it smaller. So
there you go.
there's your
little
free
lettering
lesson.
for you.
Your free lettering lessons. I'm not sure what program they might be using, but the fact that they're not really doing much with the sound effects, they're putting it on the line. They're not breaking it up. It could very well be the case that it was done that way, so it could be done in another language, and it's very well possible these could have been done in another language and then translated and using um, the same text. I've seen that done with a lot of books that came in that were foreign books, and that it might be large because it could be covering old text is a possibility.
Yeah,
So you just never know what might have been done with the art.
English takes up less text than any Latin language.
Okay. Well, there you go. So I ended up picking up these books over the weekend at Art and Design, and for everyone else, I got a piece of artwork, a brand new piece of original artwork from Jared.
There you go.
It may currently be the tiniest piece of artwork I have.
What number did you get?
This is number 209.
There we go.
Tiny drawing 209.
I draw original tiny drawings. It's a cartoon stripped down to its most basic form. One character, one balloon, one word. And I hand those out to people. It's got my jaredosborne.com contact.
A lot of fun to get.
Yeah.
And then so I grabbed my.
People seem to like them.
I think they're a lot of fun. I had grabbed my folder that I have some artwork in, and this is my folder of tiny artwork, but that is the tiniest. Because I normally have stuff like I would get things like this. This is a Gene Ha piece of art that he gave me when he signed for some artwork at Art Returns. He had put it into the envelope and sent it to me. But the tiniest art that I believe I have is a Mike Mignola sketch on this
Hellboy.
This piece of Hellboy on this notepad paper. Now I cannot actually say I watched him draw it because it actually belonged to Tim Townsend, an inker, who had sent me a letter. It was like, this is something extra to say thanks for all your hard work. Mignola didn't sign it, but it is his. I hope you like. So it's like, so I keep this paper with me.
That's your certificate of authenticity.
So that's my certificate. Because I would get things from at Art Returns of people doing stuff fun on envelopes, and doing a quick sketch, and I kept some of those things over the years, like from Al Williamson when he signed his Art Returns. He put it in this envelope to send it to to one of the editors. So his release form was in this because he sent some artwork back to one of the editors, and so to save on shipping and everything, he just sent this with the artwork, and so it's a little lizard drawn by Al Williamson. And because of letters and stuff like that, I do have a signed letter by Steve Ditko, but he only signed it with an S. So it was asking a question about some artwork that was there, about 12 pages that we had for him. And I kept the envelope that has his full name written out.
Yes.
So I was looking. So your little artwork inspired me to go. I do
What
have
other
a
small
bunch of
stuff?
little ones that I can. I want to get like a little frame for the Hellboy one,
Yep.
but I'm going to probably go to like either Michael's or one of the hobby places to get one of those gilded gold frames,
Ah.
like you would have, the very gaudy ones that are like this thick,
Nah.
to frame that in, and then do another frame for yours, and I can make a little mini art gallery.
Yeah. Who did this cover?
Have any more?
On the commute in to Fanfare, since I was commuting in and out for 2 Saturday and Sunday, I got a chance to read this finally.
Oh yes, I think you had that
Right.
at the show.
This is a bookie book.
What? No pictures.
There's a couple pictures. Let me see. There's maybe half a dozen pictures. But this is from the University Press of Mississippi. I have one about Seth too that I got to find where I put it. And this is who did this? Nicholas Lebraire is a professor in American Studies at the University of Bordeaux, Montaigne. Where is that? France?
Bordeaux. Wait, Bordeaux, Montana.
Montaigne. Montaigne.
Montagny.
Danny.
Montagny. It should. I guess it's near. Should be near Bordeaux.
Okay. I now know more about Jean Giraud than I did before, which turns out wasn't a whole lot. I don't think we know a lot about if you're just a sort of normal fan like me who's read plenty of Mobius, but I really didn't know a lot about him. So it went through his early days, when he started out on Blueberry, and who was his mentor? Gigi or something like that?
Gigi.
Gigi. Okay, that was his mentor. Talked about him working on, the Blueberry stuff, which turned out was his most popular and commercial stuff his whole life.
Yeah.
I didn't really know that, and then it went into his who was it? His his what would you call them? Pen names. He was I guess since it's Giraud, it's GIR. So
yeah, that's not out of
the. How do you pronounce that? Gir. Okay,
yeah. But that's not out of the ordinary. It's not really a pen name. It's more like how you sign. I do a fast signature.
But he also said he worked in different genres in different names, and he'd come back to Gir later on to sign things that he signed Gir earlier in his career. But then, of course, he also developed the Mobius personality after the scientist who created the Mobius strip.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all about his history. And you know what the funniest thing is, too? One of the funnier things is they kept using a word, which I guess is the English translation of the French word for comic book fan.
Mm-hmm.
But it translates as betaphile with a B as in boy.
Yeah.
Which is one letter and barely a sound off from pedophile in English.
In English, it would be. In French, it isn't.
I know, because they went into and every time they wrote pedophile, I was just like, oh, man, stop using that word, because it actually is something different in French. That's like the English translation of whatever the French phrase would be.
Yeah.
Like, who translated it as that? That's
yeah.
But because they kept using, because then they were talking about how it wasn't until the 70s that in France really the artists and writers started being celebrated rather than the characters.
Right.
And that was because of the French comic fans, the Betaphiles. But there was I didn't realize, how many failures he had kind of with comicdom, because we only see his good stuff over here, as you would imagine.
It's not out of the ordinary for a series. You try to launch a new. It's not a one shot. You sometimes you put out a one shot, but you try to launch a new series, and you have the permission to try a new series, especially if you're already if you're already a veteran. It's easier to launch a series then. But if the first volume doesn't sell, there's not going to be a second one.
Right. And there was kind of a little wrap up at the end where he's talking about how the idea of Mobius being a comic book genius was sort of marketing for it was kind of, I guess I had some peace signs going. Was kind of really just a marketing thing for Jean Giraud. He kind of used that as his marketing to sell, his back issues, his back stock especially too. But it was kind of tongue in cheek with him a lot too. And his ending thing here was where is it? Oh, he's also talking about how it was common, especially in those days, for comic book artists to use photographs as references. But in the age of the internet, people found all his references. And so his reputation as a genius took a hit. Because people were like, he was just copying these photographs. And what does he end with? A wizard, a visionary. But like Trondheim, she refuses monolithic praise. Creating it. Oh, these discoveries, talking about him, finding the stuff have not affected noticeably the general discourse about Giraud in recent years. As recently as 2022, the new incarnation of La Cacheuse de la Bande d'Ennessay, which I think that is where the de la Bande d'Ennessay is where Betaphile comes from.
Les Cahiers de la Bande Dessinée.
Yeah.
Sure.
You knew I wasn't going to get that right. Come on.
Yeah.
But that's where Betaphile comes from.
If it had been a Fantagraphics magazine, it would be called the Comics Notebook.
Published an article claiming to show why Mobius was a comic genius, issue 18, April 2022. Yet his image as an absolute creator and genius, a useful myth that he helped develop from the 1970s onward, and that he may have believed, became harder to uphold as his career compromises came into focus. Acknowledging his flaws, his failures, recognizing his blind spots and embarrassing silences does not take away from his best works, from his towering accomplishments in the field, or from his constant ability to make light of his own pretensions. To be recognized and celebrated as a genius must have been a crowning achievement, but 10 years on, the master craftsman is a richer, more complex, and probably more accurate description. So that's how the book ends, and it's kind of interesting. He's like, hey, he's not quite a genius, but who cares?
Yeah. Captain Finney says, the power of negative connotations. How many book lovers would wear a t-shirt saying, I am a bibliophile?
Probably Christians would wear that.
Was there ever anyone that tried to figure out how much Mobius made? I don't know. I have no idea. Lost money. He did lose money, and it's not just the crazy sex cults.
Yeah, they went over that here in the early 80s. He got involved with, I can't remember the name of the cult, But that's when he moved to Los Angeles too, and was involved with this cult for a couple or few years.
Was that the Canadian guy's cult? What was it called?
Let me see if I can find the page here. But then they said, like, when he did his comic biography years later, even his autobiography, he like skipped over that time and gave it like a page.
Was it the Raelians?
Sounds vaguely familiar. I think we had a discussion about it once before, or there was a few YouTube shows that were like shared. Have we read this or heard of this type of thing?
Yeah, I'd never heard of his cult before. So, Iso Zen, there it is. In 1983, he moved to Tahiti along with the rest of Iso Zen. ISO-ZEN was the name of the group he was hanging with.
Iso Zen. Sadarella, originally Iso Zen, also known under many other names, probably to escape the IRS, was a French UFO religion. It was founded and led by Jean-Paul Appel, who founded the group in 1966 in Paris. The view of the group involved ufological and New Age themes and took elements of Buddhism and Tantrism. Okay, yeah, that's so. There's the crazy sex cult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there's another. I know another UFO cult. It's called the Raelians. It was founded by a French-Canadian journalist called Claude Vorillon, who said that his new name was Rael, and he came to lead everyone's souls to outer space. He basically used the cult as a way to finance his auto racing career. I actually know a guy who was a friend of Rael. And the guy's Portuguese. He spent two seasons racing in America. He raced in the Motorola Cup, which is the predecessor of Grand Am Cup, and it was half of the season in the US, half of the season in Canada, and that's where he knew Rael because he was also racing there. And the guy would walk up to him, and he would always have weirdos around him, like from the cult. But he would. This guy I know, he would walk up to him and say, "Hey, Claude, what's up?"
Carla Speed McNeil even gets name dropped in here. I found that
nice.
As one of the comic creators as different as Milo Manara, Carla Speed McNeil, Frank Miller, and the Hernandez brothers have acknowledged this role as in being influenced by Mobius. But I was just amazed to see Carla Speed McNeil name dropped because I don't think she's particularly well known. He's a pedophile and he's proud, aren't we all?
I have another friend here from Portugal watching. This is Vet. He also makes comics. I'm a pedophile, and he's a proud pedophile.
Welcome.
Tit Goblin says, "Leave it to us Canadians to have alien sex cults and love chicks."
It says here, some of Iso Zen teaching resonated with the spiritual craving to be found in Jodorowsky's work, and the Manchian vision of a sentient crystal, the Inkle, works in both contexts. For instance, however, Iso Zen's specific form of enlightenment, including a gradual shedding of one's personality, could not be further from Jodorowsky's exuberant celebration of artistry and creativity, his own in particular. So I think he was in the cult but quit first. There's also a quote in here talking about sort of Mobius genius from, oh God, his name just flew out of my head. The Sandman writer.
Neil Gaiman.
Neil Gaiman.
When he was talking about, he loved Mobius's work. He thought there was all this depth to it. But then when he finally read a translated version, he realized none of that depth was there. It was all in his head.
Yeah.
Which happens. If you read any of the Arzak books, you'll notice, okay, so you've got some pretty alien landscapes, but that's it.
Yeah. And they mentioned one of the one of his, I don't know, flaws, I guess you'd call it, was he took the Arzak from another comic and never acknowledged it.
Mm.
I forget which one it was. But they're like, he clearly was influenced by this other comic when making Arzak, but for some reason, he never mentioned it. But everybody knows he was. I was like, okay. And also,
I remember the first time I read the Airtight Garage, I was like, what the hell am I reading here? So one day I went up to another guy that I knew he read European comics. He wasn't part of the scene, but I knew he read comics. He was actually an auto journalist like me, older. And I worked him. Okay, so I bought the first Airtight Garage, and I tried reading it, and I didn't understand a thing. Congratulations. Neither did I.
And they also mentioned, which I never knew, that Mobius thought the Inkle wasn't very good. He thought it was a bit of a failure for him creatively. And I've never liked the Inkle. And over here in the US, it's considered great Mobius work. At least that's how it was marketed. I don't really know anybody who's read it.
Here's the thing: the Inkle is definitely it's something with a cult following.
Yeah,
but it was not a comic made for the mainstream reader.
No, and like, and even in here, at some point, Jean Giraud was like, I don't think that really worked as well as I wanted it to. I don't think he liked the writing because he didn't write that one. So
no, but of course it's Jodorowsky, and
right.
the guy's a bit mental. He definitely is.
And here's something. I don't know if I knew this before and forgot it or never knew it, but Metal Hurlant, the French heavy metal magazine, I didn't realize that was really screaming metal.
Yeah,
is the translation, because everybody always calls it the French heavy metal magazine. So I just assumed it was heavy metal in French, but it's actually screaming metal.
No, it would be Metal Lourd, Lourd. The D would be silent. But yeah, we know it's screaming over here. We know it's screaming metal.
Yeah, I could not have told you.
No idea over here. We're all living lies.
Oh, I'm a huge Carla Speed McNeil fan. Finder is one of my favorite comics of all time, and I can definitely see that now that she's been influenced by Mobius. Now that I mean, Carla Speed McNeil is one of the best world builders out there. She really is. With Finder, she's just such a terrific world build. I mean, you wouldn't be able to see that in Queen and Country because that's not her world. But if you were to read Finder, she is such a good world builder. So I can see how, and now I can see like in Finder and in some of the work after that she built like different worlds in Finder. And one of them was sort of this old domed city where it's so old that the people who live there now don't even know who built it. And they don't know how to fix the dome, but a lot of it is self-fixing. These robots come out and fix it. But the people who live there now don't really know how all the systems work. So and there's just little things going on in the background that I now, after reading she was influenced by Mobius, I can see 100%.
Captain Infinity says 40 years later, I finally noticed that on the logo, the heavy is crushing the metal.
Isn't that amazing when you?
Yeah, but the clue as to it being screaming metal because the first issue is the one in France was the one with the cover with the monster with his head back and his open mouth, he's screaming. But I know that was not the cover to Heavy Metal #1 in the US.
I think it took me a few months way back in the 80s of reading Ms. Tree's thrilling detective adventures to catch on that Ms. Tree is mystery. I just didn't notice until like in one of the
until you mentioned it right now, I had no idea. Not
they
at all.
they mentioned it in like one of the letters pages or something. Like, Ms. Tree, you get it? And I was like, oh, I get it now. I never thought about it for a second before then.
I never did either.
Ms.
Okay.
Tree.
You just sold Finder to somebody else. You should ask
Oh.
Carla for.
It is terrific. It is. You can get if you want to get it all at once, if you can find them. Where are they? Dark Horse put them out in 2. I don't see them up there. Library editions. They're 2 big, thick, soft covers. I don't know where my Finder library editions went. They should be right there, but they're not. the one, if you're a comic book fan, just pick up the Finder Library Edition Volume 1. If you're not a comic book fan, like one of the first Carlos B. McNeil Finder comics I would give to somebody who's not a comic book fan, there's this one called Talisman, which is 3 issues of Finder as a little hard, kind of big oversized, but it's only 3 issues. And it's about a little girl who loves books. And that like can appeal to any book fan anywhere. But if you're a comic fan, just pick up Dark Horse Finder Library Edition Volume 1. That would be the best way to go. My bookmark fell out. But it was fun reading this on the train.
Saw some Finder that looked pretty old in a local store.
Yeah. Oh, it started in the late 90s, maybe. Dark Horse did some just 10 years ago that were good. Like I said, she reminds me of Jack Kirby. Not in that her art or writing is anything like Jack Kirby, but both her and Jack Kirby, when they wrote, create cultures. They're not just, they're doing a lot of world building, and they're doing a lot of creating of culture. Like in her the last book she did in Finder, which I really got to figure out where I put those, because they were right there for like years and years. I must have moved them to another spot. Trunk key. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks well.
Yeah,
but if it's well read, it means people liked it.
Yeah. And it's got like I actually have a page of original art I bought from her off of eBay one time. That's how much I like her work. And it's like it takes place in the world, and I don't think it's in another domed city where there's always like 3 distinct cultures, or 3 or 4 distinct cultures living in the city, all in their own levels, and sort of like how we don't mix with the rich. The cultures don't always mix except at certain points, and there's this one woman who's the star who's both cultures, so she is just really good stuff. Check out Finder.
It's like the opposite of no pun intended, pun not recognized.
Yeah. Pun completely missed.
Me, the pun.
Pun Ms. Trees, thrilling detective adventures. Good thing I didn't notice it, because I usually don't like to buy books with puns in the title. I'm still looking for that quote, but I can't seem to find it. I remember where it was on the page. I remember it was at the end.
Yeah, but when it comes to science fiction in France, people think that usually are more likely to give credit for a good writing and in a good setting to Valerian more than anything made by Mobius.
I can see that.
Valerian is much more mainstream. It's essentially an adventure series.
Yeah.
Valerian and Laureline.
I discovered that late in life, and I discovered it from an animation that was a French-Japanese kind of animation thing. I forget where the company was, but it was like this was interesting, and I watched it and I enjoyed it. And then I went looking up to what it was, and it was like, oh, these are really cool, and seeing how it influenced sci-fi everywhere. It was like this is I would say in America, an obscure French magazine that every sci-fi person stole from because they had no idea, no one else had access to it. It's like, oh, okay, so this is what happened. So someone was in France, found this book, brought over to America. Said, you got to look at this, and they sat there, like, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that. You can find stuff in Star Wars that's from it. You can find just almost any sci-fi stuff in that time period, and not knowing it went back so many years.
Here's the quote I was looking for. The emphasis on visual splendor is perhaps best expressed by Neil Gaiman's comment in an otherwise admiring tribute. Quote, I finally read the Mobius stories in that Metal Hurlant when I was in my 20s in translation and discovered that they weren't actually brilliant stories, more like stream of consciousness art meets Ionesco absurdism. The literary depth and brilliance of the stories had been all in my head. I don't know what the word Ionesco means. Ionesco absurdism?
Yeah, no, don't ask.
That one I don't know at all.
Ionesco. Okay, so there's a playwright called Eugen Ionesco. He's from Romania, but if he spells Eugene like that, he lived in France. Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay.
He was an absurdist playwright?
Yeah, it's considered the father of absurdist theater alongside Samuel Beckett.
Ah, okay. See, we learned something.
There you go.
Ionesco absurdism.
Yeah, you're not supposed to learn anything reading comics. They just rot your brain.
Well, I learned it reading a book, so
about comics. See, the comics made you read a book, and you found out about absurdist theater by Romanian authors. Comic Crack says we need Scott the Punisher here for clarification. And we're going to tell Scott that you missed the pun and see how he reacts. It's just wild how much of an influence Mobius as well as Valerian has had. Yeah. They're probably there's a few, I guess, Drouillet's out there for most people to use as a reference. But if you read heavy metal, you've seen Drouillet's stuff. And I guess Danny Futuro would not have made it into the US, so it would be very hard for it to be. But it's also very out there. But it's not as out there in the same way because in some ways it's very traditional art, and even in Barbarella. But Barbarella is not supposed to be intelligent, and most people don't know that Barbarella was a French comic. It wasn't even published in the normal French magazines. It was published it was serialized in a regular magazine before it was published as an album. So it doesn't get the same credit as more traditional science fiction comics. But people mostly know Barbarella because of the movie, not because of the comics.
Oh, they also mentioned in here.
Captain Infinity says he annoyed Neil Gaiman on Twitter once. I heard that wasn't very difficult to do.
They also mentioned in here, I think it was in the early 80s. And it turns out Mad Magazine was as big an influence in France as it was here in the US.
Yeah.
And Jean Giraud was a huge fan of Will Elder and Harvey Kurtzman. Yeah. And actually, I think they said in the early 80s went to New York to visit with them. And so that was one of his big fanboy moments.
Yeah, the magazine Fluide Glacial existed because those guys were a big fan, major fans of Mad Magazine.
They mentioned a couple magazines in here. One that I think that were like they wanted to be Mad Magazine. and one wanted to be Mad Magazine but more political. And I can definitely see the Jack Davis in Mobius.
Well, Mobius knew the guys who worked for Charlie Hebdo, but he never. I don't think he ever contributed to Charlie Hebdo. He may have. I'll have to check if he did something. The guys who did Charlie Hebdo had a magazine called BD, L'Hebdo de la BD, which is something like having a title called Comics, the weekly comics magazine. And I'll have to check if he did something, because that never lasted, didn't last very long. In fact, this Stardy book that I showed you earlier on was serialized in that magazine that the Charlie Hebdo guys did, and the guy who wrote this story, Manchette, was a writer for Charlie Hebdo as well.
And they're talking about Mobius's Jean Giraud's influence, and specifically The Long Tomorrow. Katsuhiro Otomo, Akira, William Gibson, and Ridley Scott all specifically mentioned The Long Tomorrow as an influence on what is arguably their respective defining work: Akira, Neuromancer, and Blade Runner. It holds a singular place in the Mobius corpus, even though he seemed to regard it as less important than his contemporary work on Arok and the Airtight Garage. And there's one panel, let me see if I can find the drawing of it just to show you, which is like, this panel influenced everyone, and you can see it. Where is it? I think it's in color. And of course, there we go. It's Metal Hurlant, issue 7, The Long Tomorrow. And it's that bottom panel.
Yeah. Right, that's Blade Runner.
Yeah. You can see Blade Runner in that for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And some Akira and plenty of other things. But it's like, yeah. The Long Tomorrow.
And of course, you have the Fifth Element, in which Mobius was the storyboard artist.
Yep.
That thing is a pure pure Mobius comic in movie form.
Yeah.
Right.
And even the writing is, because while Mézières was not the writer of Valerian, Mézières was not the script writer. He did give Luc Besson ideas for the movie. So it's also inspired by Valerian. All the political stuff comes from the Valerian comics and not from a Mobius comic.
It's interesting. They also mentioned that Mobius, especially in the 70s and 80s, was very much into sort of not scripting the comics beforehand, and sort of stream of consciousness comics. That's why the stories went all over the place.
Yeah, that's why I didn't understand the Airtight Garage.
But what was strange is they mentioned later on in his career, when he was scripting comics, people were criticizing his comics for being scripted. They didn't like him as much.
Well, one I can think of, and it's not signed as Mobius because it was a cycle in the Blueberry stories after Charlier had died. It was.
I didn't realize how long he did Blueberry for, too.
Yeah.
I'm used to the Marvel ones, but he kept doing Blueberry all through his life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that was the meal. That was the meal ticket.
That was his bread and butter.
Yeah, but he wrote a cycle. So Blueberry usually comes out in a pack of 3s. And all the stories jump around in chronology, especially after he started doing Mr. Blueberry and Young Blueberry and Marshall Blueberry. And there was a Mr. Blueberry arc, which was written by Mobius, but it was drawn by Colin Wilson, who was a New Zealand artist who mostly worked for UK publishers, but he worked in France as well.
Yeah, what I find funny about Blueberry is like that was his bread and butter. Jean Giraud. That wasn't genius Mobius stuff. That was, Western story, but that was his most successful one, not the genius Mobius stuff.
Yeah.
His most influential stuff wasn't his best-selling stuff. It's weird.
And especially because it was Mobius who came up with the concept. Giraud was hired by Charlier specifically to draw Blueberry. The whole concept came from Charlier because Charlier helped Goscinny found the magazine Pilote, and Blueberry was one of the first properties to come out of there. And Charlier had started the first album after taking a trip to America, a long trip in America. He stayed there for several months. He came back. Okay, I want to have an idea. I'm going to call it Blueberry, and they called Giraud. Said, "Hey, you want to draw this for me?" And he said, "Yeah."
No, it's funny too reading this.
Well, in due time, building better Mobius comics. Comic Craft says it was at a costume museum show many years ago in Montreal, and saw some of the costumes from The Fifth Element. Yeah, I mean, it's on purpose. Who wrote Long Tomorrow? That was what was the guy's name? O'Bannon.
And I didn't. And also in reading this, it was fun. I didn't realize how political French comics were.
Yeah.
In terms of they had conservative comics and communist comics. So often, people would quit. I think Mobius did it at one time, but they mentioned other cartoonists.
Dan O'Bannon. Yeah. The short
yesterday. There's people would quit. I think some guys stopped working for Pilote when it became too conservative, and some people stopped working for other magazines when it wasn't conservative. And it was that's just something you never hear about in American comics.
And I'm not sure that Pilote was ever that conservative, especially because it had one problem. It was made in France. You had more money in France because traditionally the French guys had to go to Belgium to make money doing comics.
It wasn't Pilote, was one of the others he worked.
Yeah, and both Tintin and Spirou had to adapt to survive in the market and come up with interesting stuff. So there was a lot of new stuff coming out in the 60s that would be considered revolutionary for mainstream publishers.
Because they mentioned what you've mentioned before, that French comics they didn't have the comics code,
right?
But they had actual government censorship. But it was the Catholic Church and the communists who teamed up so they could have government censorship on comics, which led to conservative Catholic Church comic companies and communist comic companies.
Yeah.
Hence the political stuff.
Which is kind of funny because Harakiri and Charlie Hebdo would be very well. They weren't, because they were marketed as not suitable for children. But they were definitely they would get in trouble with censorship every once in a while, even though most of the guys who founded Charlie Hebdo were connected in some ways to the French Communist Party.
Yeah, I forgot about the horny goof folded sophomore humor into an album-long chase scene. By contrast, the airtight garage appears to build an entire world, episode after episode, a three-level hollow asteroid in which every science fictional cliche is redrawn and re-examined to be upheld and winked at. So, had fun reading this one. It was interesting to because I really didn't know that much about Mobius. The only thing I know about Mobius, I probably read in the forewords to those epic comics of his,
Right.
the reprints.
Yeah, most French comics people are actually very boring. Not everyone gets as crazy as Mobius did.
Comics people in general are pretty boring. They have to sit and draw all day.
Yeah. They wish they were the in the stories they make up.
Yeah. But good. Now I have to find where there's another volume of this the first one I got. It's about Seth, who does Clyde fans and Palookaville and such. But I went to look for it, and I'm like, where did I put it? Raiders of the Lost Ark did. It used to be. I hate when I have something sitting in the same place for years, and then I find another place for it and can never find the other place. Like, where did I put my Finder books? For years, they were to my left up on this little shelf. I look up there, I don't see them. Where'd I put them?
You didn't categorize your shelves, like named your shelves, and then look it up in your database?
I do. I definitely do have my shelves named for my comic books, but not for my collected editions.
Oh, okay.
Just because they have to get stacked by size a lot of the times. Because some books are this tall and some books are this tall.
Right.
So the tall books have to go on a tall shelf. Otherwise, if I have small books next to I use up all my tall bookshelf space on short books. I can't do that.
So in the New York Public Library, the hidden library that's under Bryant Park, and it's not hidden, it's just that there's no real access to it by the public. Those shelves are built a certain way that all the books that are on there are categorized by size.
Yeah.
So all the same size. So this way
You have
here,
to.
the shelf is built for that size, and then that's it. So there's no extra space, and that's how they're categorized there.
Years ago, and this is why I do not like to. Right now, my comics for years, my database was in FileMaker Pro. Had to switch that over to Numbers, which is fine, which is a spreadsheet program. It's the Mac spreadsheet program that comes on every Mac, so that's fine. Because years ago, there was this program just called Books or something for the Mac. It wasn't a Mac program; it was some third-party program. And you could use your webcam to scan the UPC of a book, and it would catalog for you. There's probably other ones that do that too. But I did a bunch of my books in that one. Then after a couple of years, the program wasn't being supported anymore, wasn't being made anymore. So I lost all that work. So I'm like, this is why I never like to save things. This is why I'd never use that cataloging app that everybody uses. What's it called? Do you know it? It's some cataloging app on your phone that everybody uses for their comics. I'd never use it.
Yeah, comic collector app.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that for a hot second, but it was like after 100 books, then you got to pay for it.
Right.
I got way more than 100 books, and
it's a monthly fee. That's why I'm like, Numbers is good. A simple, basic spreadsheet tells me what comics I have and where they are. And another French comic I got this week in English is Elric, the Sleeping Sorceress. And I think this is a French comic because there's lots of French names in it.
It is. I think it's the 5th album in the series.
I don't know if I know I have at least 2 others. I don't know if I got all 5 because they're usually 2 issues. Mm-hmm. And it was good. I enjoyed it. But it's amazing they do a whole novel in 60 pages or something.
Yeah, it's the 6th album.
I'll look up which ones I have.
It came out last year in France.
Right.
It's actually been a while. The previous one had come out a year and a half before, and the other there was a 3-year gap between 4 and 5, and a 1.5-year gap between 5 and 6. But they're probably doing something else. Let me check.
Hold on for a second. I got to.
Oh, that's something else. And oh, it's probably Seishi's fault. What was Seishi doing? Nothing. Okay. Oh, we did a Conan album.
I think the albums are available. We got on the back. We've got Elric the Ruby Throne, Elric Stormbringer, Elric the White Wolf, Elric the Dreaming City, the Necromancer, and then deluxe editions.
Okay, it's missing some. Okay, let me see. So
it's got 5. It's got 5. This must be 6.
Yeah, this is 6. Yeah, the number one was the Ruby Throne.
Right.
Number 2 was Stormbringer. Number 3 was the White Wolf. Number 4 was the Dreaming City. Number 5 was the Necromancer, and number 6 is the Sleeping Sorceress. Yeah.
I think at some point I was going to buy these deluxe edition versions, but then never just did. So this one popped up on final order cutoff, and I was like, you know what, I may as well get it.
So Grand Forma. I hope we get. I think we were supposed to be getting Elric in Portuguese finally, but they were going to do 2 albums at a time. So we'd get the Ruby Throne and Stormbringer in one. It's actually a good idea because it's usually Robin Recht in the first 2, then it's Julian Tello in the 3rd and 4th, and now it's Seishi in the 5th and 6th. So it'll always be if they do double albums, they can have them artist themed. At the Infinity should catalog is 17 compilations of Love and Rockets.
Yeah. See which one you actually have.
Yeah, and then you cross-reference to find out which ones have the comics in order, so you can read them in order. Of course, Love and Rockets is something that you can read out of order.
Yeah. And I got 2 other books that are art supply books. I got zine making and book binding. I want to make some zines and books this summer. How to make a sewn book. This is by Rin, who is one of my fellow professors, and Wilson got to meet this weekend. This is by one of her, I think, professors at FIT. I think he teaches at FIT, or they teach at FIT. Lauren Simkin Berkey. But when I look at the picture, so it might be, I think it's they go by they.
But and those scribbles was part of the book at the end.
What was that?
The scribbling on the end of the on the previous page.
Oh yeah.
Is that part of the design?
Oh yeah, that's part of the design. Right there. That's part of the design. Because the design is all hand drawings.
Oh, okay.
Much like I found this woman on TikTok. She makes sketchbooks and notebooks from upcycling, repurposing hardcovers.
Oh,
An illustrated guide to upcycling books and loose leaf binding. Here we go. An easy illustrated guide to upcycling old books into new books, plus a bonus chapter on how to make a book from things like. So this one's just a little skinny one. Wasn't that expensive. But she also showed you can see her doing this on like I said, she takes old hardcovers, cuts them all up, rebinds them, and puts in like writing paper and drawing paper. So those are pretty cool. Like I said, I want to try to bind in some old comic books too into whatever sketchbooks and journals I make, and she sells them. So I'm like, I can sell them.
Yeah, why not?
Especially since I don't know if I'm going to have classes to teach in the fall. What else did I get? Oh, Whiteout #3 came out.
Mhm.
This was the hot book 2 months ago. I don't know if it's still hot or not, but it was a good issue. Gets a lot of more mystical this issue. It's post-apocalyptic and ghosts will kill you. And this is a teenage girl who got split up from the father who she's trying to find, and this is a kid who's psychic and can talk to ghosts or something. So she needs him to. They're going to go try to find her father, who got captured by some humans. So far, it's been a good, solid series. I've enjoyed it. And the 2 last issues this week. The last issue of Erotic or Erotech. This is the one that's about, it's sort of a office drama comedy about a company that's trying to bring to market a sex robot. And in the back, the reason I started buying it is 2 pages of Dean Haspiel. And it's been a pretty good comic. This is the last issue of it. It's either the last issue of the story arc or the last. I assume it's the last issue. And we also get the last issue of Dust to Dust, the J.G. Jones with Phil Bram book. They wrapped up this Dust Bowl drama story. And it seemed like it wrapped up a little fast. It seemed like, I shouldn't say fast. It seems like they got 2 issues worth of stuff in this one issue. As you can see by all the panels. And it all worked pretty well. It just didn't seem as wide open as some of the other issues. I don't know if it was planned to be 8 issues or because I can't imagine this sold particularly well. Like I said, I don't know if it was. This is how it was. I mean, look at all those panels.
Mm-hmm.
There seemed to be 2 issues worth of. Look, they got 2 issues worth of panels in one issue. Not that it was bad; it just seemed different. So I don't know if it was supposed to be 9 issues or 10 issues, and they said, let's do it in 8 or what, or they planned this all along. But either way, I liked it. If you like a nice Dust Bowl drama, pick that one up. It's probably being collected edition now. Giant Generator. Whose imprint was Giant Generator again? Is that oh God, I can't. Rick Remender?
Mm-hmm.
Don't recall.
It might be. That might be his Image imprint. Let's see if I get any other notes in my little book. Because I think I wrote some notes in here, but I think we got to all my subjects. Big Dumb Batman. What is an indie comic? Jeff Sutton. Oh. Do you have an LLC with your comic, Wilson?
Yes.
Okay.
That's my partner Eric is the one that took care of all that
All
stuff.
right.
So he's more savvy to that. So Section 8 Comics is an LLC.
Gotcha. So I was thinking of starting up an LLC.
Oh, okay. He said it was fairly easy to do.
I've
the long
heard
run,
that.
it wasn't as hard as
And
things are not as hard as it used to be.
Yeah, and I've heard there's websites that you can give them $100 or whatever it is, and they'll set up an LLC for you, which is not supposed to be hard. But I'm going to be looking into that because I think I want to set one up just to because I want to do some publishing. I got some ideas for things I want to publish. We'll
Okay,
see if I do,
right.
but
That's one of the obstacles you're going to have to do. So,
yeah,
it's good to have that.
yep.
So, my notes are unfortunately sad because they are the passing of a couple of comic book legends.
Right.
So we have first off Jerry Conway,
Yeah.
longtime Spider-Man writer. More famously, the death of Gwen Stacy storyline, where a lot of people have said that was the death of innocence in comics.
Punisher co-creator, right?
Co-creator of the Punisher, and then came back to Spider-Man during the Clone years with
I
Ben
didn't realize
Riley. I think he was the co-creator of the Jackal.
that.
He
Right.
worked on the first Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
Let's see. And for DC Comics, Firestorm,
Right.
Power Girl, Jason Todd, villains Killer Croc. He wrote the Justice League for 8 years. That's a pretty long run. Not too. We don't hear about long runs anymore, really. And the crossover to Superman and Spider-Man. That first one. So he's, definitely a giant in the industry. And I was racking my brain. I don't think I actually ever met him.
I don't think I ever met him.
Maybe during the Clone Saga.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
would have maybe run into him at a convention. But I checked my autograph stuff, and it's like, no, I would have had something signed by him if I ran into him at a con, and most likely it would have been the that Marvel yearbook, because for a while I would just bring that with all the cons, and whoever worked at Marvel, I try to get a signature of that person. So, unfortunately, he had passed away.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about Jerry Conway, only because I never paid attention to his work. He was just one of those guys who was around when I was a kid in the 70s writing mediocre comics.
Yeah, I
At
know
least
him.
according to me.
Right. I knew him as only as a Spider-Man writer,
Yeah.
and it's like as I was going through his bio and stuff, it's like I read a ton of those books, but it was one of those, I kind of put him in the category of he was there, he was an important part to certain stories,
He
but he
he
wasn't someone I followed. He
no.
wasn't someone that I was like, oh, this was, I need to buy
He,
this book because he worked on it.
right, he was someone has to write these comics writer to me.
Yeah.
Like, because he just never stood out amongst the pack, from the pack, I should say. He was always like, like he may have been the Spider-Man writer when I first started reading Spider-Man.
Right.
And it was okay, but Spider-Man was a mediocre comic when I was reading it in 1977.
Right.
Yeah, my comic shop owner did a eulogy of Jerry Conway and mentioned that he hated Jerry Conway's 70s Spider-Man, especially the storyline where Dr. Octopus marries
Aunt May.
Oh yeah,
Aunt May, yeah,
I
and
found that one funny. I must
and then
admit, when I was a kid.
they blow up a nuclear reactor in an island, and Spider-Man escapes it by flying a plane, even though he doesn't even know how to drive a car.
Yeah.
A plane is just like a motorcycle, and Peter
Yeah.
had a motorcycle, so it has to be the same.
Yeah, but outrunning a mushroom cloud, yeah, you can't do that in a private plane.
It's comics. Of course he can. Plot armor. And the other person was Len Jarwalski. I doubt I'm pronouncing that correctly. He was mostly on DC stuff. Starman, The Flash, Justice League of America. I know him from reading books by Malibu Comics. Like
Okay, that's right. I did.
he wrote Prime and
Right.
Prototype. Those are books that I read. Other than that, it's not really much else. He did Speed Racer for Now Comics. He also did Street Fighter 2. He worked on The Fly and Phantom Lady.
Oh,
Yeah.
Len
Those are a couple of titles.
Strzelecki.
Strzelecki.
Yeah.
Okay, so he had also passed away recently.
Yeah, before Jerry Conway. Then Jerry Conway stole all his thunder, dying.
Yeah. Nobody really remembers Len Strzelecki. Man, it was 71.
He was 71.
I don't get it. All these guys that worked in the 90s are I thought Strzelecki was much younger than
Yeah, in the
Conway.
90s.
No, but I've only heard of him. And Conway was writing for Marvel in the 70s. I've only heard of Strzelecki in the 90s. Okay. I suppose. All right.
And I think that gone through all my notes and things I wanted to talk about.
I did come and ask what was the comic I wanted to show in the beginning. Oh yeah, so it's the one with Tardy art. So this is Griffou.
Griffou.
Yeah, and yeah, it's basically it's a detective story about about somebody trying to buy tenements to make a high-rise building. You know, typical. But you know, this is very hard boiled. You have sex scenes and people getting shot a lot and people getting killed by bomb. One thing that is, of course, Saudi has a very idiosyncratic style. It looks kind of cartoony. And what I found funny when I opened the book, okay, this is all of these gray tones because they look very computery, and this was made in 1996. But this version was with this cover was made in 1996, but the original graphic novel is from 1978. So all three previous editions of this one did not have gray tones on the interior art. And I think they put this out so they could have a Tardi on the bookstores at the time. They didn't have any. This is the Portuguese publisher. And yeah.
I think the hard-boiled detective novel was invented in the 1920s.
Yeah. And of course, this being made by guys who were involved in Charlie Hebdo. You get a lot of communist propaganda in here as well. This was realized in the first 27 issues of that magazine I mentioned, BD L'Hebdo sur BD, which is like it's like having a comics magazine called Comics, the weekly magazine about comics. So, do come up with a better title.
I finally think I have a grasp on what this comic is. Essentia. I bought like an issue a few issues ago, and it was like the end of a story. Then I bought last issue, which was the next one available to me, which was the end of a story. And this is now the beginning of the story. There's the Frank Cho logo for the company, Wake. And I think this is the company is mostly run by the writer, who's John Dolmayan. And Essentia is a city in the future. Where is this? Winter 2105. And there's a city, and then there's a city next to Essentia, which is called Bethany. which is where all the servants and people who built the expensive city live. And this was really well. The artist is, who's the artist? The artist is Artecida, Artecida, one name. Color artist is one name, blonde, and the letterer is Josh Reed. Lucio Perilla is the cover artist. Production and design, Harry Tatasian and with Josh Reed. But it was a really good story. But I was confused by the storytelling at one point. The storytelling was actually real good throughout it. But see this woman right here? See her hairstyle? That little, jagged bob or whatever it is. And she's wearing this coat that says Glamour Couture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and she's a prostitute. So the whole story is about her and her life mainly. Then, of course, we get a killer who shows up, we think. But I want you to notice, here she is, or here, I don't know if this, all of a sudden we get this woman. She's got a Glamour Couture shirt, but she's wearing a bun. Now, this hairstyle is too short to be put in a bun. You cannot put that hair in a bun. So I was like, oh, that must be a different woman. I'm like, that must be a different woman. Her hair's blue now, not red. And all of a sudden she's dragged and dragged back into an alley. And then we see the police show up to find a dead woman. And this now looks like the haircut of the earlier one who's got the Glamour Couture. The rest of the storytelling is flawless. Very good. I was admiring it. But now I have no idea if that dead woman at the end is the woman we just saw the whole story about. All because her hair was up in a bun all of a sudden. And I'm like, that's a different haircut.
Could she have been wearing a wig?
I don't know. Do I see a wig lying around here? I don't see a wig on the ground. And there she is at the end. And she's definitely got the shorter hair with no bun on top of her head. Nothing's pulled back. So I'm like, what is that? I think it's supposed to be the same woman, but where'd that bun come from? So good. I'm gonna put this on my pull list now.
Yeah, SVP's asking if that's Grant Morrison on the cover. No, it's Telly Savalas. It does look like Kolchak, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Kind of does, yeah.
Who loves you, baby? I think the next cover they have is sexier. Where is that? That's next issue's cover.
Mm-hmm.
Or one of next issue's covers. I don't know. That looks like a photo cover.
Cover
art by Ben Oliver. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I think this one's going to go on my pull list because I liked, despite not having read a full story, I've liked the now 3 issues I've got of it. It's a pretty solid comic. An indie comic coming through that indie comics publisher, that distributor that Wilson mentioned before. Philco, what is it?
Philbo.
Philbo, that's the reason.
Philbo Distributors.
And I can run through the last ones pretty quickly. Let's see. We got Is Ted Okay? Number 3. This one's been good. Little hard to describe. takes place in the future. This guy's now running for president. Oops, this guy. A woman whose job it is. She's sort of like the Watcher. She's supposed to make sure the employees aren't homicidal or suicidal, but not to interfere. But she interferes. She interfered with Ted, and is now Ted okay? And crazy things happen. You know, one guy's doing everything, David Chisholm. So it's an auteur comic. And then we've got Free Comic Book Day, which is this weekend. Conan, Tides of the Tyrant King. This was okay. It's a solid Conan comic. Who's doing it? Grim Jim Zub and Howling Jesus Marino. If these were $3 comics, I'd be buying Conan comics, but they're $5 comics. So,
I think people like the Jim Zub's Conan right nowadays.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Jesus Marino was one of the guys that used to work with Carlos Pacheco.
Okay,
but that art doesn't look very good.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was okay. Like the whole comic was okay. The latest issue of Feral is interesting because it's a flip book with stray dogs. So it's kind of a crossover flip book because all the cats. This is the one that's sort of like a horror zombie book, and rabies is the disease that turned all the animals into zombies, basically. So the cats are all now captured by the humans, and they don't know what's going on because they're, trying to figure out if they have rabies or not, and using vaccines on them and stuff. So they don't know what's going on. So half the book is that. Then Stray Dogs was their previous book. And now we see some of the dogs are in there too. So we get the cat point of view and then the dog point of view. The cats and dogs can't talk to each other either.
Oh, okay.
Cats can talk to the cats. The dogs can talk to the dogs, but they can't talk to each other. And then my LCS owner made me take this one. It's a Bad Idea book. And it's an issue 0. It's only supposed to be $2, I think. And it's on the cheapest paper possible, which is heavily textured. And you can't even see Frank Quitely's lines. They kind of disappear. But the comic itself is okay. I guess this is Bad Idea's next push. There's Megalith that is supposed to be coming. It's only about 16 pages. And they've got a checklist you're supposed to rip out and give to pre-order. I want to pre-order everything Bad Idea. And in the back is... Where is it? There's another checklist. I like that poster for Warbird. That's pretty cool. Where's the other checklist? Dun, dun, dun. Let me see. Oh, here's an upcoming releases. Oh, this is a check that there's that you can see June, May. So it looks like they're coming out with 2 issues in July, 3 in July. All I have to say is I'm glad I'm not doing production for them anymore. Sure, I could use the money, but I don't need that kind of stress anymore.
Right.
With their crazy schedules. But yeah, I think that's everything I got this week. There's only so much narcissistic scheduling I can take.
Right.
Before I'm like, no. I'll find something else to do.
It has been becoming interesting saying no to projects. For a long time, I'll be like, okay, I'll figure it out. I'll take it, and it's always you have to do the rush, and then you're waiting for them for approval, and it's like, okay, I don't hear anything, I don't hear everything, but before that, every day it's like you got more pages, you got more pages, and it's like, and then eventually I have gotten projects. There's some projects that's shown up like 10 years later.
Yeah.
And someone's like, "Hey, would you like to work on this?" Nope, not at all. It doesn't help that you didn't pay me for the last project, and it wasn't actually the person who I did the project for. It was the person that got me hired on the project. And then he had, back then when it just all fell apart at the end, he apologized about it. And then, 10 years later, he shows up and is like, "Hey, we have the rights to do this. We're thinking of a book too. Are you interested?" It's like, "Nope." It's like, "Well, those other guys aren't involved." And it's like, "That's fine. I am not interested. I don't want to be part of that book because the story didn't make too much sense to me because I
Right.
got things in piecemeal and it was all like a rush, get it done, not get it done. I don't really know what the story was about.
It was not a good working experience.
It was not a good working experience. And even though it's not the same people, it's like, I don't want to work on that project because it's connected to the last project and I don't need to have that in my life.
Someone's got to be the same.
Yeah, it's like someone has to do it. Doesn't have to be me.
Who did Leah Brown start working for? Paper Cuts or Mad Cave, right?
I think
I
it's
just saw.
Mad. I think it was Mad.
Was it Mad Cave?
Yeah, I think it was Mad Cave. Yes.
I'll
Although
start
they
looking
had
for-
they had a couple of layoffs recently.
I'll have to start looking for her name and stuff. Mobius. Where did I put that set? I couldn't find a cover credit for this too. So I like that cover drawing, but I was just before we were on, I was looking for a cover credit. And this is by the University Press of Mississippi.
Yeah, they're the ones who usually put out books about comics, the good ones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I bought one once. It's in storage now. It's the one about the history of comics from
this is volume 4. So I know they've got others. Let me see who did this cover?
Surprised it's not in the
oh, here we go.
Editorial indicia type places.
It's down by the UPC. Cover illustration by Anthony Hare, Hare. I don't know if he pronounces it Hare or Hare, but there's no H in Anthony, so it's Anthony.
Anthony.
But it's a pretty nice cover illustration.
It is a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would recognize who it is if it didn't have his name on there.
I don't recognize him anyway.
Yeah. But it's like looking at it with the names, like, yeah, that looks like him from the pictures that I vaguely remember seeing.
Oh, that they even mentioned somewhere in here in his 90s period, those two people who Ed Laz has pictures of with Mobius and Marie Javins and whoever else was his editor in the 90s. Oh, what were their names? I have them on the photos now, but there were two people who helped him bring his stuff to the U.S. in the 90s and eventually ended up suing each other. But I was like, oh, I have photos of them. Not that I was there that day, but I got them from Laz.
Was there a studio called Star something?
The Mobius brand. That's where it must.
Star Watcher Graphics. That was the agency. It was set up by Mobius and Jean-Marc L'Officier. Is L'Officier mentioned in the book?
What was that?
Is Jean-Marc L'Officier mentioned in the book?
I don't know. There was a lot of French names that didn't stick in my head.
Well, L'Officier was the guy that lived in America. He worked for Marvel and
Jean-Marc,
DC.
Yeah. That's what I was talking about. Jean-Marc and Randy L'Officier. Yeah. They were the ones who I had pictures of from Marvel, who ended up in a lawsuit, I think, with Mobius. Here's what I was just reading. The most visible result of the expansion was the 2-issue miniseries Silver Surfer Parable 1988, scripted by Stan Lee. The project was a quixotic one, an attempt to do a superhero comic book by embracing the perceived limits of these comics in terms of size, graphic choices, and coloring. In later reprints and in subsequent comments, Giraud discussed the result as a disappointment. Further efforts to expand the brand included the spin-off of the Airtight Garage, 90 to 92, the creation of a connection between Arzak and The Detour, 1987, a novelization of Arzak, and the ambitious use of the Mobius name for various projects. I vaguely remember ignoring that Mobius Silver Surfer with Stan Lee writing it, because anything that Stan Lee wrote, I generally ignored.
Here's the thing: it doesn't look like a Stan Lee written comic.
He probably didn't do anything on it.
Yeah, Mobius gave him the full story, the full art, and here put some letters on top of it.
Yeah, you've heard. Have you heard Mike Rockowitz's story about working with Stan Lee in the 90s? He was an editor at Marvel, where Stan Lee said he wanted to write a comic. So,
is that how he ended up doing Ravage?
I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I don't remember what book it was, but I do remember the story.
So Mike got assigned it, and he was waiting for a plot for Stan, who it turned out he didn't want to do a plot. So Mike had to get a plot written up by somebody else. Then he had to Stan Lee the climax of the story was Stan Lee only wrote the script on the final pages. So the whole thing was plotted, drawn and inked, much like he used to work with Jack Kirby, who would do all the artwork and write the dialogue in the balloons, and then hand it to Stan Lee, and Stan would write do the final edits and consider that writing. That's what he was doing in the 90s too.
Right.
So Mike had to hire these other people to do the writing. So who knows if that happened or not with Mobius. I'm sure he didn't hand Mobius a full script. Or someone handed Mobius a full script. Maybe it wasn't.
Her name who?
Eleanor Pitiera.
I have to do the previous text.
Yeah, I can't remember who we were talking about. We were talking about Silver Surfer. We were talking about Jean-Marc and Randy L'Officier. The relationship with the L'Officiers gradually soured in the course of the decade, culminating in the litigious dissolution of the company between 2000 and 2003. Meanwhile, Jean and Isabelle Giraud created a new structure in 1998 named Stardom Mobius, then shortened to Mobius Production, which continues to this day. I remember being disappointed that the Airtight Garage from Epic Comics had like no Mobius work in it. She was nominated by the Science Fiction Association of New England. Sci-fi. Pull that out of there.
But they talk about the cover illustrator.
Ah. Anthony Hare.
Right. So I guess the cover illustrator brought back an idea, and they're talking about that idea. Because it's talking about cover illustrators. I found out recently that a Portuguese illustrator, and then it moved on me. Illustrator was nominated for Best Emergent Illustrator.
Okay.
In this year, in the year.
All right.
Okay. I've held an original Mobius artwork. It was the tribute illustration he did for Akira, and it was only about this big. It was just like a small, like a little bigger than 5x7.
I have an autographed Mobius print that Marie Javins gave me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was I think he dropped them off for the office, so she handed them out to anyone who wanted them. I also have. Do you know the book Metallic Memories? I think Epic printed it, and it was a book of Mobius illustrations. It wasn't comic book. I had my copy from back, when I got it in the 90s from Marie. But I think I also have 2 more copies of it from when Jerry gave me his all his stuff. I'm like, must be some. I'll have to sell these on eBay or something, but I never have. They're just still
right.
sitting there.
It sounds vaguely familiar. I do remember
there was a lot of copies kicking around
picture book.
Yeah.
For Mobius art. I don't recall the name at all.
I think with Metallic Memories, I think it was, but he said there was you definitely saw it at Marvel at least because there was a lot of copies kicking around the office. Now some things just had a lot of copies. Oh, and Mobius artwork at back matter, not the main story though. I think I still have Airtight Garage. I haven't looked at him since the 90s. So I think Eric Shanower actually did it too. He was a good artist. I like his work. Mm-hmm. I'll have to dig those out again because I think I still have them. The old, I think I still have that. If I do, I haven't looked at it in 30 years.
I do not have that issue. I just looked up the cover. And it's like, no, that's not what I had. But I did have a poster book type of thing that had the images that eventually became posters at Marvel.
Okay.
Because he did a slew of posters.
I remember that Iron Man poster he did. That was a good one.
Iron Man. It was a Spider-Man where he's inside like a broken pillar. Okay. And I think there was a Punisher one.
Oh yeah, I remember the Punisher one.
Maybe a Daredevil one.
They made a poster out of that Silver Surfer cover too, I think.
Right, and I think the Thing had like a close-up. And I remember because most of all of them were hanging up at Marvel.
Yeah, they probably go for a few bucks now because posters don't usually last.
No, not at all.
Tit Goblin had that Wolverine one for years.
Oh yeah, it was the Wolverine.
The Wolverine looked terrible.
Oh yeah, we're just saying what existed. The Iron Man one was okay.
Yeah, he was weird looking, but I liked it.
Yeah. Like you could look at it and say, "Yep, that's definitely Mobius."
Well, the Wolverine looked like somebody who hated superheroes and worked for 2000 AD at Drive.
No, I'm trying to picture the Wolverine one, but I can't. It's not in my head. Simple bookmaking. Now I got to find some hardcover books I can strip down and make into sketchbooks and notebooks. I'll have to find a secondhand bookstore or something.
Or any trade paperbacks Jerry might have had. Any hardcover books?
Yeah, maybe there's some in there. There could be. Measure just short of the cover, so there's room around the pages. And I was looking for 2 years ago. I bought a little bookbinding kit. I have no idea where it is, so I ordered a new one.
Oh, okay.
I spent half an hour looking for it yesterday. They're only like $12, so it was like not the end of the world. But I was like, you know what? I've looked for this long enough. I'm just gonna order another one. If I find it, I find it.
I've done that a few times where I'll buy art supplies for a future project. Not sure
Right.
what the project's going to be, and then when I'm ready to do it, can't find it. It was like earlier today, I was looking for. I almost vaguely recall buying some stuff for for tiny frames.
Yep.
Because at the time I was making I was like buying watch pieces and stuff like that to like
Mhm.
just to add to art stuff like the
Right.
scrapbooks and things like that. And I had at one point just got a bunch of stuff on sale. So it's like I know I had a couple of picture frames somewhere that would have been at least colored to be like brass. And it's like, oh, I could use those and just use the various metallic pens I have and make the picture frame that way. And it's like I can't find those.
Yeah.
There's one more spot to look at where I keep some of my art supplies at. Things I bought and would use one day in the future but never get to use it. Like I have a piece of wax and
Mhm.
a stamp with my initial on it. It's like, don't know what I'm going to use this for, but I picked it up on sale somewhere where it just has like my initial on it, and it's like, oh, I could, send out a letter one day and stamp wax it, and never did. But I just like the idea of just having the ability to do it.
Donald says it's interesting to hear so much Mobius stuff. I always listen while doing things away with the keyboard. Good show tonight. Thanks, Donald.
Well, glad you liked the show, and I'm glad I
Yeah.
finally got to read this Mobius book to spark so much conversation about him. I certainly couldn't have talked so much about Mobius without reading this book.
And it kind of got me back into, oh yeah, I've been wanting to buy the Valerian collections for a while.
Yeah,
so
go
I've been
get it.
searching and I found one on Macari. So I was like, oh, that's a pretty good price. And a matter of fact, I had liked it, and then the owner had clicked on, would you like to buy it at this price? So saved a couple of bucks too. So I'm going to purchase it probably tonight.
Well, we should let Paolo get to bed.
Oh yeah.
Here's some balloons for you.
Yeah.
Some lasers and confetti. Confetti, lasers. Woohoo! We've got to end the show with excitement.
That's right.
That's right.
We'll be on my channel next week.
That's right. So make sure you go there.
Yep.
All right. And we are signing off.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Keep reading comics.